And so then rewinding to when you started, because I think this is useful to people that are looking to start an audience from scratch, looking to get going. I talk a lot about, in Founder West, getting people like a core team to start with. You're looking to build your personal brand. You maybe need a chief of staff to start getting some of the operational stuff off your plate, getting a social manager, getting a writer, because a lot of this stuff, takes a lot of writing. Oftentimes, how do you kind of see, the core team when you started out, and how's that kind of scaled up? Like, was there, I've seen a lot of your content. You've talked about, going from the top down. So like, I know you brought on Caleb pretty early. You had experience with VaynerMedia and doing that side. Like, how would you advise someone to architect a squad?
So this is a really tough question, because it really depends on the means that you have. So for me, I can bring on, multi 6-figure people right off the bat, knowing I'm not going to get any ROI for 2 years. I can do that.
Let's say you're doing 100K profit, because there's a lot of guys,
then I would hire somebody like that, who has experience building a personal brand, to a large degree. And what I would actually refrain away from is the guys who only talk about like views and algorithm stuff, and like are what I call hacky. Cause like, it's like the people who have the biggest brands on every platform do none of the things that the quote growth experts talk about. They just have great brands because they provide value to their audience. And so you need someone who sees the big picture and is not like, hey, we need to do, let's do a listicle. It's just like, okay, sure. Is that really is that going to like really build the brand?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That got BuzzFeed.
Right. What? Yeah. Right. I mean, actually BuzzFeed is a perfect example of like optimizing the crap out of all of the hack stuff, but like missing, in my opinion, like the main point. And so I look at brands like The Rock. I look at brands like, I think the Kardashians, I look at a lot just from a branding perspective. I look at Taylor Swift. And you just look at like what the moves they made are. Like, Taylor Swift's not hacking anything. You know what I mean? And she has one of the most influential broad bases like ever. And that is the type of brand that we strive to build. And so you need somebody who really understands that. And most people don't, because branding is a harder thing for most people to understand. Like, that'll probably be one of the next books that I write will be around branding. And that'll partially be for my own team, so that we can be really, really clear. Now, they've heard many of my rants on branding overall, but just to put it in a really succinct way for the masses, because I think like one of the most the most underrated skill, and the difference between Alex at $100 million net worth versus $1 billion net worth is going to be the brand.
100%.
Like, my understanding of brand, I think, will be the pivotal thing that will take us from 100 to $1 billion.
And what do you think is the breakthrough that you've had there? Because I know, there's a lot of people out there with misconceptions. They think like designing a fancy logo, just getting a good name, it's the right color palette, this kind of stuff. And they kind of are just slapping lipstick on a pig. I'm curious, like, how do you view it? What's changed over the years that you're like, okay, now I kind of feel like, I've got the ability to create a brand that gets goodwill, that can get to the $1 billion plus, that you're looking for.
I'm going to use different language than the audience is probably used to when talking about branding. But branding is teaching behavior at scale. And so if you think about the origins of the word, branding was branding cattle. So you had a cow and you would sear, some sort of logo into it. And so then we have to ask, what was the objective of that action? Well, the idea would be that if someone saw the cow next to a cow that had no brand, they would behave differently, right? And so for a cow that had no brand, they might take it, they might kill it, they might leave it alone, whatever they would do with an unbranded cow. But with a branded cow, they might return it to a specific owner, or they might kill it because they hate the owner, right? So like it's still a brand, and you might hate the person who's the owner. But the key difference is that it would change your behavior. And so if we kind of extrapolate onto that, what we did was like by changing behavior, that's functionally teaching. And so when we teach things from babies all the way to adults, it's associating things that people know with things that they don't know. And so the thing that they know should be the valuable thing, and the thing they don't know is your brand. And so then you associate the thing that audience deems valuable with this logo or this tagline or these colors or these shapes or this person, and then they say, oh, these are similar. And then you do it enough times that eventually they become one and the same. And then you can drop the thing and have the person, and they will still behave the same way as though they were receiving this value, but that has now been disassociated, or at least not paired in the same image. But then you can take that logo or brand and associate it with something new, because now they do know this thing, and put it onto a t-shirt, and then they will behave in the same way. And so fundamentally, that is what we were trying to do when we create a brand, is that we were trying to program behavior at scale, which is why brands are the most valuable thing that a company can have. Like if you look at Warren Buffett and the companies that he buys, he's begun buying a lot of brands. Like Apple's not really even a technology company anymore. It's really just a brand. And brand, you can measure the power of brand based on the difference between what you can charge for a commodity and what you can charge for the branded version of the product. And so if you can continue to raise price on a product based on the brand, that is an indication of the power of the brand itself and how much it has been trained and associated with value for that audience. And so that is what we try to build, because it's one thing to have a salesperson. It's another thing to be able to literally just imprint something on it and immediately buy, sell a shirt for $500 that costs you $10. And like, there's a reason that LVMH just prints money, as a conglomerate, because they understand brand.
100%. Yeah, no, I talked to a lot of founders and, they're confused around like, I want to build this brand. I'm not trying to get my content out there. And, what I often talk to people about is when you're having that much difficulty, just remember like the purpose of content, the purpose of your brand is to help people solve a problem and to drive value for them. And at the end of the day, your customers' problems can very much become your content strategy, helping solve those.